As I film this video, it is July 4th, 2025, also known as Independence Day back home in America. And I feel like this is literally the perfect time to film this video because I don't think there's ever been a point in my life where I have felt this free and independent. You probably can't see it in the background because it's already nighttime, but I am filming this video from Pattaya, Thailand. And I've only been here for about a week and a half, so we're still kind of settling in. But I've already determined, and I kind of already knew this before I even went back to America to visit recently, but I kind of already determined a while back that I would not be moving back to the US. Won't be moving back to the US. I have no intention, no desire to go back to the US because for as much as the US markets itself as the best country or the wealthiest country or the land of the free, home of the brave, etc., I just don't see it. I don't see where the reality lives up to the way it markets itself. And in this video, I want to talk about why I decided to take the leap of faith and leave the US to live in a third world country. But before we talk about why I chose Thailand, first we need to talk about why I left the US to begin with. So basically, 2018, I met this girl from the Netherlands and we were friends for a few years. 2022, we fell in love with each other. And 2023, I visited her in Europe. I fell in love with Europe as well. And beginning of 2024, I moved to Europe, the Netherlands specifically, to be with her. And once I touched down in the Netherlands and got a chance to really experience what life was like out there, not just as a tourist or a traveler, but as an actual resident, I realized that life was categorically better in Europe than it was in the US. Now, I proceeded to spend the next 14 months of my life living in the Netherlands. And I probably would have continued being there or maybe have gone directly from the Netherlands to Thailand had it not been for my sister's wedding. So basically, my sister got engaged to her boyfriend at the time, and they ended up having a wedding recently. I think it was June 9th or June 8th, something like that, of this year. So my girlfriend and I flew to the US to attend the wedding, and because we were there for 3 months, we also decided to take the opportunity to travel across the US because I felt like, hey, maybe it's a bit unfair for me to judge the US in blanket statement terms if I haven't even seen a good portion of it. Well, now that I've seen around 40 out of 50 states, I can confidently say that all of the things I previously said about the US are not only true, but they are completely fortified in my mind now. Because whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, South, Mountain West, doesn't matter. A lot of America's weaknesses apply nationwide. And the biggest weakness of all, in my opinion and in my experience, is the cost of living, especially relative to the quality of life. You see, you can't be expensive and also provide a bad experience. If you go to a restaurant where they're charging you $100 a plate and the food doesn't taste very good or it's mediocre at best, you're not going to want to go back to that restaurant. And I feel like that is what America is. America is a very expensive restaurant where the food isn't really that good. It's all hype, it's all marketing, and maybe you have celebrities substantiating the idea that this restaurant is the place to be, but you actually go there, you try the food, and it's not that good. And if you've never tried any other food from any other restaurant, then you might have just accepted the fact that this food is worth the price. But when you go to a place like the Netherlands where maybe it's $85 a plate, but the food is 2 times better, you realize that you never want to eat at that first restaurant ever again. Now, I'm talking a lot about the Netherlands. I haven't really talked much about Thailand because ultimately we still want to live in the Netherlands, and I'll touch more on our future plans later on in this video. But if the Netherlands is $85 a plate and 2 times as good as the first restaurant, Thailand is $25 a plate and about 85 to 100% as good as the first restaurant. So even if the food still isn't particularly great, definitely not as good as the hypothetical Dutch restaurant. I hope this analogy isn't too hard to follow, but basically the food is much, much cheaper, 25% of the price, and it's still on par with the quality of the first restaurant. Not nearly on par with the quality of the second restaurant, but it's so much cheaper that it doesn't really matter. That is the main reason why we decided to move to Thailand. Financial freedom. I mentioned earlier that I feel freer than I felt in a long time, and I stand by that. I have not felt this free, financially speaking, maybe ever, or at least since I left my parents' house when I was 21 years old. I feel very, very free. And the cool thing is I'm in a unique position where I can take my income wherever I go. A lot of Americans, unfortunately, do not have this opportunity because either their jobs are location dependent, or even if they work remotely, their employers don't allow them to actually live in different time zones or in different countries simply because it complicates the tax structure of the company and you quickly become a liability. I'm in a position where I make my money from doing this, from speaking to a camera, and I can do that literally anywhere as long as I have a decent internet connection. So I'm in a very blessed position because I can basically arbitrage the difference in the cost of living between the US and Thailand because I make money in US dollars. Now, we've seen a recent devaluation of the US dollar, so I'm hoping that trend kind of dies down, but either way, I also have euros, so I'm good. I'm basically good. And my girlfriend, she will be good as well. Just to be transparent, right now she's in a position, without putting all of her business out there, where she is still building up her business because she basically wants to have the same freedom. She wants to have the same freedom where she can make money in euros wherever she is. And she's actually already gotten monetized on YouTube, but YouTube is a marathon, not a sprint. So it takes time to build this up. You don't just up and decide, hey, I'm going to start a YouTube channel so I can make money online and move to Thailand and live in this resort with a pool for $400 a month. It doesn't work that way. It takes time to build that up. And so I wanted to put both of us in a position where I could support both of our living expenses and give her the longest possible runway to build her business the right way. Because sometimes you can take shortcuts to build your business, but it always backfires in the long run. So basically, I know that she has the intelligence, the talent, and the work ethic to actually make YouTube a reliable source of income for herself. She just needs time. And I'm basically taking my money and trading it for time because I see it as an investment in both of our futures. So that's kind of the biggest reason why, is because this is one of the countries where we can still enjoy a nice quality of life, where it still feels safe because it really is safe. We can enjoy some material pleasures and luxuries that we couldn't really enjoy or indulge in the Netherlands or the US because it's so much more expensive there. And I can just provide for both of us on my income while she builds her income. And eventually, when she gets her income up to the same level as mine, or maybe even exceeds mine, who knows? Then we have two incomes and we can continue doing this and stacking our bread into oblivion. Now, what happens once we both reach a point where we're making really, really good money from YouTube, where we're making a livable wage at least from YouTube between the two of us? Basically, the long-term idea is we spend the rest of our 20s not necessarily living in Thailand, but living in countries similar to Thailand. So maybe Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, the Philippines, Colombia, other South American countries, places in maybe Eastern Europe. Just basically traveling to all of these low cost of living countries, rotating and allowing ourselves to live the materially luxurious lifestyles while also saving our money at the same time, with the ultimate goal of moving back to the Netherlands whenever we decide to start a family, if we decide to have children or anything like that. But whether we have children or not, at around 30 to 32 years old, we would like to be back in the Netherlands where we would settle down, quote unquote. And I don't know if we'll want to settle down per se, but we'll at least have the option and the opportunity because we'll have so much money saved up. So the way I see it in my head is we don't have to make a whole lot of money to make this happen. If we can save stringently and strategically throughout these next 5 to 7 years by arbitraging the difference in the cost of living in countries like Thailand with the amount of money we'll make in US dollars and or euros, basically by the time we get to the Netherlands, we should have enough money to not just put a down payment on a house, but to buy a house cash. Now maybe I'm being a bit idealistic, but again, the plan checks out in my head. And if I can, again, put us in a position with my income to allow her the runway to get her business up and running where it can sustainably make money, we're going to be in a great position. Now, finances aside, why did we choose to, let's say, for example, move to a country that we never previously visited instead of maybe doing van life in, I don't know, America or the Netherlands or elsewhere? Aside from the fact that we just have a better lifestyle here for the money, we also wanted to broaden our horizons. So I'm from America, she's from the Netherlands. She's a lot more well-traveled than I am, but generally the places she's seen are in Europe. So they're still developed, advanced nations, some more than others, but generally they're all developed first world nations. My travel experience is less extensive. Obviously, there's America. I've been to Mexico. I've been to Turks and Caicos. But in Mexico, we stayed at the resort. Turks and Caicos, we went off of the resort a little bit. And that, for me, was one of the most enriching experiences of my life. At the age of, I think, 11 or 12, going with my aunt to Turks and Caicos and being able to see how the locals were living. It really put life and the way that I was living back home in America into perspective for me. And ever since then, I've really become preoccupied with this idea of broadening my horizons. When I was 18 years old, actually pretty shortly before I initially met my girlfriend online, I traveled to New York City for the first time. And I was so broke, I probably had $300-$400 to my name. I was so broke that I couldn't afford accommodation. So I went on this website called couchsurfing.com and I basically arranged to stay with this random lady in Brooklyn with all of these other guests who were all staying for free, with the stipulation that we all cleaned the apartment once a week or something like that. So because I was only there for 4 days, we only had to clean one time. Cool, perfect. Now, when I got there were all of these people in the room, and they were all from different places. They were from places that I had never heard of and most certainly had never visited. And I remember there was one particular day during my trip where I was waiting outside of the apartment because the host wasn't home and I needed her to unlock the door. And one of the other guests came up to the stoop outside of the apartment and sat with me, and we started talking. And basically it was this girl who, in her face, she looked Asian. She had Asian facial features, but her skin was like that of a Caucasian person. And it really threw me off because I had never seen someone who looked like her. So I kind of assumed that maybe she was mixed, but as I began talking to her, she told me she was from Kazakhstan. And I remember being taken aback because I had never heard of Kazakhstan. I didn't know that was a place. And why am I telling you this long-winded story? I'm telling you this because I'm addicted to the feeling of turning the unfamiliar into the familiar. So moving to a place like Thailand, and I say moving very loosely because, again, we're not necessarily going to stay and settle in Thailand. We're going to rotate between Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, etc., etc. But coming to a place like Thailand where neither of us had previously been here before, that feeling of stepping off of the plane and stepping out of the airport and getting in the taxi and just looking out of the window on that 2-hour drive from Bangkok to Pattaya in the middle of the night, that's a feeling that we're going to keep with us for the rest of our lives. And I'm really glad that I got the chance to share that feeling with her in that moment. Because I feel like that not only helps you discover more of yourself, but it helps you unlock a different level of depth in your relationship. So we are going to be in Thailand for the next 3 months. And after that, we're just going to go wherever the wind takes us. But eventually, at some point, that wind is going to take us back to the Netherlands.